I'm there for the medicine. The sports part is interesting. You can't worry that there's 70,000 people in the stadium. You can't worry there's 7 million people watching on TV. There should be nobody there. Your job is the medicine. So don't mess that up, and you have to block all that out.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Monster Monday presented by DraftKings. We've got some rookies that have reported for training camp. I mean, those poor suckers, by the way. But the Baltimore Ravens reported 2 days ago, the 13th, I believe. Oh, my gosh, because they're going to go in the playoffs. That is a long haul for those young men. Anyway, it means football is on the horizon. I am fired up. I am Ross Tucker. You should follow me already on social media at Ross Tucker NFL, former NFL offensive lineman. You should also always use the code Ross for anything and everything at DraftKings. Want to talk about the process for team physicians. All these guys coming back, reporting, they have to get their physicals, get cleared for training camp. Let's talk about it with one of the best in the business, my guy, Dr. Chao. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
Well, so obviously I reference him a lot during the NFL season in particular, not only here on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, but on the Even Money Betting Podcast. You know, it's funny. His name's Dr. David Chao. You should follow him on social media if you're not already, at Pro Football Doc. And Dr. Chao, you know, I'm a big believer in what I call specialists, right? Like, for me, Greg Cosell is a film-watching specialist. Andrew Brandt is a sports business specialist. You are a sports injury, sports medicine specialist. And I'm actually surprised. I know that you're getting on more and more shows and more people are realizing just how valuable the information is. It's funny. It feels like most people, they just, like, when there's a major injury to a guy on their team, they just want to know, just give me the answers, Dr. Chao. Just tell them the answers.
Yeah, it's really true, but what I love to do is what I say is I'm the medical Mike Pereira, right?
Yeah.
And we explain why that is or isn't a holding call or what the call should be, et cetera. What is the injury, et cetera. But what's the downstream effect? And that's why I love talking to you always. And you help us out a bunch. For example, leading up to the Super Bowl, whatever we talked about in the playoffs, Joe Thuney not able to left guard with his pec injury, protect the A-gap. And you point out that his backup, Allegretti, is pretty good against the run, but against the pass, maybe not as good. And so that's what we incorporate into our specific six scores. It's not just what does a pec injury do. It's a pec injury for a left guard when it's a right pec. You know, or Aaron Rodgers, it's his front foot versus his back foot and the type of athlete he is. So having been in the NFL, not all injuries are the same. I didn't treat them all the same for every player, depending on the player. And that's what we do at Sports Injury Central, is to try and apply that knowledge.
How much has it changed, Doc, since you were in it, in terms of how teams pick who their team doctor is? The impression that I had as a player was that most of the team doctors were picked because they paid the organization. It was a revenue-generating opportunity for the organization, and I don't want to say that they thought all doctors were the same, but they probably thought, you know, we don't know enough to know who's better than who. So if someone's going to give, I mean, they're all doctors, right? What do they always say? The guy that graduates last in medical school, you still call him doctor. So my perception as a player was that most of the time the official team orthopedic, and they were the guy that was from the official orthopedic of the New England Patriots or whatever, and that they basically paid, and it was like a marketing thing.
That's definitely true to some extent. Technically, it is illegal to link selection of the team physician with a sponsorship deal. That is a league-wide rule. But what does often happen, and quite honestly regularly, this hospital will pay the money to sponsor it, and there will be a separate contract that happens to be the lead sports medicine guy at that hospital to be in alignment, right? So it's not linked but yet it kind of is. I was the last of a dying breed. I was in private practice. We didn't have money to sponsor anyone. When the team came to me, said, "What about this hospital sponsorship?" I said, "Look, we'll do everything we want that you need at that hospital. Go get the hospital money, but one grievance will cost you a lot of money." And that's actually why a lot of players,
What do you mean one grievance will cost you a lot of money? Why?
Well, if players have the right
Yeah.
to file a grievance for a medical circumstance, and of course, when I was in it, and it was a while ago, different time and era. Almost everyone stayed to do the surgery unless it was a specialty. Now it's normal to fly everywhere else. And I think that's part of the selection of the team physician. I'm not bagging on any team physician out there. They're very well qualified. But doing what we do in our office is different than what you do on a football field. And yes, the last guy in the class or the first guy in the class is called doctor, but that's like saying all football players are the same. All quarterbacks are the same. They're not, okay? And here's my little quiz question, which you will get the answer to and your audience here, because we're talking about it. This is going to blow everyone's mind. Name the only person on any NFL game on the sidelines, the only person involved in the football game on a Sunday that requires no previous football experience. Zero. I mean, obviously not coaching, not equipment guy, not,
Yeah, probably doctor.
The doctor. And let me tell you, one of the things, because I did X Games and I did stuff before the Chargers and different sports, sports medicine is different, when I taught my fellows too, with your feet on the grass than it is feet on the tile floors in the hospitals. It's different.
In what way?
Well, first of all, yeah, everything is chaos around you, right?
Yeah.
And it has to be quick and in the moment. You don't get the same. It's just a different atmosphere, okay? You do your initial exam of someone's knee lying on a floor instead of an exam room table. I mean, just little things, right? And players and dealing with players in the chaos around you. So you just have to manage all of that situation. And look, one of the things that I figured out early on is I'm there for the medicine. The sports part is interesting. You can't worry that there's 70,000 people in the stadium. You can't worry there's 7 million people watching on TV. There should be nobody there. Your job is the medicine. So don't mess that up, and you have to block all that out. It's just very difficult doing things outside of your normal environment. And especially, for example, we do a lot of things as a team physician that we don't routinely do. No, I wasn't involved in the Tyrod Taylor Chargers incident, but I've blocked, I can say this because Phillip Rivers has allowed me to, blocked Phillip Rivers' ribs 24 times to play through a game. That's not something I do in regular practice, because why would you block someone's rib to play in a game in your regular practice? But yet it's something you do on Sundays to get a guy to play, or start IVs and doing things. It's just what you do in the NFL is different. Just like in an NFL game, what you do is different than what you do training for football, right? It's just different. You can be the best athlete in the world, but what you do on the football field is a little bit different. And it's just distinctly different what you do with your feet on the grass. And look, I'm not knocking any of the doctors, but it's just a unusual set of circumstances is all.
Yeah, there's no question. How do you become a team doctor then?
Good question. Look, I did a sports medicine fellowship where we covered, when I started out, I covered a lot of different teams. I was a junior physician with the Vikings and the Bears, and I covered University of Minnesota during my fellowship and other things. Look, when I moved to San Diego, I covered a bunch of high school football to get started and whatever, and I was became an assistant physician with the Chargers, and I was lucky enough to get the interim job and then kept it, right? Right place, right time. I mean, there can be the best doctor in the world and there's no NFL team or no opportunity. I was lucky, right place, right time, and I don't know that they keep official records, but I probably was the youngest head team physician ever in the NFL. Did it for 17 years. In the first 8 years, there was at least one player on the team older than me.
Wow.
Including Jim Harbaugh.
Right.
I mean, I'll tell you a funny Jim Harbaugh story. I knew Jim
we're here for those.
A little bit with the Bears because, I was a junior physician there. Then I ran across him when he played with the Colts with the Saturday call for an X-ray. You know what I'm talking about with the Jim Kelly incident.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, this is public. He did not like how Jim Kelly was referring to him as soft or this, that, the other.
Jim Kelly was referring to Jim Harbaugh as soft?
You can Google it and look up the exact same. Jim Harbaugh's talked about it, and at a pre-production meeting in the hotel room on Saturday, he said, you can't be saying that, and basically Jim broke his hand.
Jim Harbaugh, there's two Jims here.
Jim Harbaugh broke his hand.
He broke his own hand.
On his own hand.
Doing what?
What do you think?
To who?
Jim Kelly.
They weren't on the same team.
Jim Kelly was broadcasting.
Oh.
Jim Kelly, it was a pre-production meeting broadcasting.
I didn't know that.
It's a Googleable story. It's out there.
That's fine. That doesn't mean I've heard of it.
No.
This is in the 90s when I was like in high school.
Oh, now you're just calling me old.
Yeah.
No. So Jim Harbaugh, I love him. He's fiery. But
he broke his hand
yes,
punching Jim Kelly in a production meeting.
I don't know if it was on his jaw or against, but he broke his hand. And it was his non-throwing hand, so he's smart enough to go with the left instead of the right. But he obviously missed the game.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy.
But the third big, Jim Harbaugh signs with our club. And I'm talking to him in the training room the first time. And I said, somehow, we knew each other a little bit. And, wait, how old are you? 35. Jim asked me how old am I? I said, 35. And Jim says, when were you born? I said, March 64. I said, when were you born? He goes, December 63. And I'm like, I gotcha. And he's like, not by much. And I'm like, Jim, and you know this, Ross. I said, Jim, if we were born on the same day, we're asking each other what time, right? It's meaningless. It's just funny competition.
He's a unique guy. What was
Very
your interaction with him?
Love Jim Harbaugh. Awesome guy. Is a unique guy. And that's one of the reasons I love him. I'll tell you something else. When he was playing football, we sometimes would talk in the training room and otherwise. You know what he said he wanted to do when he was done with football? Like everyone knew his dad was a coach. I don't think anyone knew that his brother was maybe coaching or whatever.
Yeah.
He said he wanted to be an NFL referee.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, he said that when he was in the training room locker room in San Diego. He said, I want to be an NFL. Because you know what I take from that? Football's in his blood, right? And he just wanted to stay involved in the game of football. And obviously the coaching, wildly successful. And I think it's a great hire by the Chargers.
That's awesome. What is the financial relationship typically like between a team and the head orthopedic? It's like a salary or per game, or how do they do that?
I can tell you what the Chargers did. Look, we didn't have a sponsorship, and the team paid the team doctors, and at different times, at one point the team had a UCSD sponsorship with banners and promotions, but we were not part of UCSD. So the team, what we did with the team is they paid us a stipend, and then anything at the office. Here's what I said. Everything I do at your facility, on the road otherwise, let's not worry about nickel and diming how much this costs. Here's just a flat fee for all of that. But if you're at my office with an x-ray or I'm doing a surgery or something, then that is, on an individual basis, a la carte basis, so to speak. So the team was very fair with it. And I think part of it is that because the players knew that it wasn't a purchased agreement, they maybe had more confidence in the situation. And one other thing I've heard people talk about.
Did you get a lot of clients in San Diego because you were the Chargers team doctor? And how did you manage that?
Yes and no. Well, first of all, there's no question that I did what I do for the Chargers. Like, it was probably 15 or so surgeries a year. I do in a week in my practice. So, yes, do you get patients by, he's the Charger doctor, I want to go to him? But I've also had friends who've come to said, I got my knee scoped. And I kind of look at him and he goes, I didn't know you did regular people. I thought all you did was operate on the Chargers. Like, so it works the other way too. You only do professional athletes. Look, I did more professional athletes than anyone in San Diego combined, but still, it was only about 1% of my practice, or 2% if you look at it, because the elite is the elite, right? In
Right.
terms of what's going on. It's look, a restaurant may have, Ross Tucker with a picture on their board, but their bread and butter is regular everyday people, right? It's
Right.
not the famous guy that's on the wall, even a Hollywood restaurant, right? The bread and butter is everyday people. So the private practice is what is most of your income. And so doctors are not beholden to teams like, oh my gosh, I won't be able to feed my family if the team fires me. Not at all. You go on in life, and I do think it's very important though. That I hear sometimes people say the team doctors should be independent of the team, so they're not forcing guys back to play. I'll say a couple things, Ross, and you obviously have lots of experience. I've never had my team or head coach try and force me to get a guy back to play. Players are the ones who said, get me back, push the envelope, not from the team. The famous Phillip Rivers story with the torn ACL before the AFC Championship game, Norv Turner sat there with me, Phillip, the head athletic trainer, and said, Phillip, take care of your knee. Billy Bullock has got this. Phillip is the one who said, no, scope my knee, I want to go, I want to play, I want to do this, and push the envelope. And that's informed consent. And I've never had the team push it.
How do you scope a torn ACL?
Well, I do have HIPAA permission to talk about this, but you don't scope a torn ACL, but he had an associated meniscus tear that we needed to scope.
Oh, my goodness.
And he played 6 days later in the AFC Championship game against New England.
Right. Well, that was a unique opportunity for him. Are there financial incentives, though? Because I feel like do you guys get a playoff share? Because I feel like the trainers did. I feel like the trainers would talk about that. Like they really wanted us to make the playoffs because they got a financial share bonus.
I did not get a playoff share, no. Early part.
So that was actually just extra work for you, or no? Because you're getting paid per thing you do. It's not really salaried.
Well, just extra stipend, and part of my pay, it ended up costing me money. Is I got paid, but they also, quote, gave me my practice a skybox to use or a suite to use, but I'd have to pay for all the food and drink, so it ended up costing me money. But here's the ironic thing: when it came time for playoffs, they took it back.
Oh, that's funny.
But I'm like, hey, you take it back. I'm still working for you. No, that's fine.
Because they were able to sell it then.
Yeah, I don't even use the box anyways, right? I didn't sit in it, but I feel like I'm really lucky because most guys get the opportunity, if they ever get the opportunity. They get the opportunity when they're at the pinnacle of their career and they've already made it in life and they're 55 years old and whatever. Do you really want to travel the country and be away from family? I did it when I was young, single, and a lot of these people were my friends. And I never crossed the friend boundary, et cetera, but I enjoyed it. And because I established relationships with them, I think there was some back and forth trust. The only time I told the GM is one time that they were saying, look, get this guy healthy because we need to cut him, and you can't cut an unhealthy guy.
That burns me up. Those are the type of stories that really bother me.
Here's what I said to him. My job is to get the best guy on the team, LT, healthy, and my job is to get the 53rd guy in the team healthy and the practice squad guy healthy. Don't tell me, that's my mantra always, to get them healthy. Don't tell me there's a guy that we're going to cut because it might alter my judgment to keep him injured longer because he's a friend. Just don't tell me. I have to play it straight to be able to have credibility in the locker room of who is or isn't healthy and play it straight.
Right. What's what would you say is the biggest misnomer for team physicians? Like the biggest misconception, thing that people don't realize or know?
The most important job of a team physician is not on Sunday. Everyone sees them on Sunday, but that's not it. The most important job of a team physician is to keep them healthy all week, is to be involved in combines and pre-participation physicals and exit physicals and managing injuries throughout the year. Sunday, it's a great feeling, and I do miss it. National anthem and the butterflies in your stomach and the excitement. And that's where all the focus is. But kind of like football, you're a football player 365, not Sundays at 1 p.m., right? And I think that's the biggest misnomer. There's more to the job than Sundays at kickoff and on the sidelines. A lot more in the background. Going to practices and tending to guys throughout the week. But like combines coming up here and evaluating talent and being involved in that side. A lot more to the job than what you see publicly. That's probably the biggest thing.
What would you say is like the most significant injury a guy ever played through? Is it the Rivers ACL, or is there what else have you seen that you're like, holy crap, this guy's really going to do this?
Well, guys are amazing. They've played through a bunch of things before. I've often been asked who's the best patient I ever treated as a player and who's the worst. You know what my answer is?
Same guy for both, probably.
Yeah, Junior Seau. Best guy for both. He'd play through anything, but he wouldn't listen. So he was the best and worst player I've ever dealt with. In terms of worst injury, we had a hip dislocation once, and we reduced it on the field, like Tua Tagovailoa type injury, reduced it on the field. He returned to play the same season. That was pretty significant.
My question on that is, like, especially if you're a young doctor, you've probably never really even done it before, right? Like a hip, like reduce it on the field. Well, how do you do that before? Like, how do you practice a hip dislocation?
Well, I practiced it in residency because we had hip dislocations on total joint patients, which is a different population. But because I did the X Games and I did rugby, including USA Rugby, that was actually my third hip dislocation. That's what I mean. My feet were on the grass a lot.
Yeah.
So that was my third hip dislocation. I was confident in reducing it. And he actually came back, was a wide receiver, caught a touchdown pass that season from guess which quarterback?
Philip Rivers. Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh.
It all comes back to
Jim Harbaugh.
Check him out on social media at Pro Football Doc. He does a terrific job. You guys know I'm a big fan of SickScore.com. The information you get from that's huge for betting, but even just great to know with what your team's at from a health standpoint. Always great to see you in person, Doc. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff from Dr. Chao. The one thing he didn't mention that he should have is that I think probably better for you than surgery is drinking Labatt Blue Lights with your friends, living life to the power of we. They could actually probably get in trouble for me saying that. So it's a joke. It's a joke. It's just a delicious beer. Always enjoy responsibly. By the way, it's Labatt USA, and it's made in Buffalo, New York. Delicious beer.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross, the Titans, they signed safety Jamal Adams over the weekend.
For the minimum. How far the mighty have fallen. So interesting when this happens. A guy that the Jets loved, and then 2 first-round picks and a big contract with the Seahawks, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Doesn't really have a great fit in the today's NFL. He's not a really good cover safety, and these teams are doing better and better at getting these guys in man-to-man coverage. The other news that just happened late last night, Jack, I guess it happened Friday, but it came out late last night. Jordan Addison, second-year receiver for the Vikings, had a really good rookie campaign. He got arrested out in L.A. for a DUI. Not good, obviously.
Bill Belichick, he's going to be on Inside the NFL on CW this year.
So what do we have confirmed for him so far? Like something with McAfee, Peyton Manning maybe Monday nights, and now this? Are those the things, Jack? Am I missing anything?
Yeah, the Manning cast and the McAfee were the only 2 ones I was aware of so far before this.
So, I'm just telling you right now, and I will write an article about this at some point. This is the media washing of Bill Belichick. Multiple fan bases are going to be clamoring for him to be their head coach at the end of the year.
Some awful news. Longtime NFL defensive coordinator Monty Kiffin and former wide receiver kick returner Jacoby Jones, they both passed away since we had our last show.
And in particular, Jacoby Jones, age 40. I did not see, I don't think it's out yet what happened there, but just awful, awful, awful.
And we need to talk about your experience at the OL Masterminds event, Ross. What was it like?
Awesome, man. Awesome. I was only there one day. Shout out to Duke Manyweather and Lane Johnson for the invite. I'm actually going to write about it in my column for the 33rd team today. So look for that later on my social at Ross Tucker NFL. Probably talk about it with Greg on Thursday as well, Jack, because Greg was there. Greg loves it, dude. Greg is like taking note. Greg is exactly as you would expect him to be at an event like that. I learned a lot. It was just great to see so many of the guys. David Deal, Alan Faneca, Steve Hutchinson, Willie Anderson. I can go on and on and on. Like every college lineman was there. A bunch of Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Rashawn Slater, a bunch of guys, Teron Armstead. It was like a convention. It was like a reunion. I loved it. More on that later in the week. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network on Samsung TV Plus, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. Absolutely, by far, the best way to get a gift for anybody, any loved one, for an anniversary, birthday, whatever. And remember, if you get this, and you should, forward me the confirmation email, ross@rosstucker.com. I guarantee I'll sign something and send it to you in the mail. Also want to give shout-outs to backofficescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com, Sporticulture, Pizza Boy Brewing.